New Orleans Saints on the road at the Carolina Panthers. The Saints are 3-point road favorites. 39.5 is your total. Be careful. We know what happened to all these 39 totals that happened this week. If you think the Panthers win this thing outright, plus 130 on the money line. We were talking about the NFC South just last segment, and I don't think any of these teams are very good. It's why when we were doing the preview for the entire NFL season, I was not joking when I said, if any one of these teams won the division, it would not surprise me at all, because I don't think highly of any of them. And so when you don't have a conviction on any of them, I think that the range of outcomes is pretty wide. And so I look at this Panthers team pretty bad through week one. You do get DJ Chark back in this one, so maybe that is something that can help a little bit from an offensive standpoint. On the Saints side of things, they do go for Carr goes for over 300 yards in the game, but if you really watch that tape back, and I know you and I do that each and every week, he wasn't particularly good, and he wasn't particularly sharp either. So I get the total. I get it. I mean, I know everything blew over today, but I mean, I understand why the total's where it's at, because you have an offense that really, really struggled in the Panthers, and then you have one in the Saints that, if you dig a little bit deeper, wasn't as good as it seems on the surface. And the Panthers do have at least a pretty competent defense as well.
They do.
Yeah.
They're missing J.C. Horn, so that's a big loss in that secondary. So you're going to have a little bit better of a chance on the outside for the Saints to make some hay in this game. I played the under 41 when it came out. We talked about it last Sunday, 6-7. We're going to rip through every single one of these games for next week, get some bets into our accounts early. This is one of those I bet under. I still like the under at 40. 39.5 is kind of my breaking point, to be honest. 40 kind of a key number when you're looking at those totals. This just feels a lot like last week's Carolina Panthers game, where Atlanta ends up winning 24-10. New Orleans is clearly the better team. Young is still really working on his development. He has not been good in the preseason. He was not good in week one. They don't push the ball down the field. Chark back, maybe we see a couple more shots down the field, but I just don't see it against this Saints defense, who was able to really fluster Tannehill quite a bit in that game and rush the passer very well. And I agree with you. I think the Panthers have a decent defense. They've got very good players in the front seven. They've got good players in their secondary. Horn, again, going to be a loss here for them. But this is a Saints team that's red zone offense was atrocious week one. They weren't able to really push the ball down the field either. Carr, you said, ends up with over 300 yards, but I wasn't overly impressed.
Yeah.
I do think the Saints win this game. I think Bryce Young makes some mistakes, and I think that's really what causes the Saints or propels them to victory. What do you like here?
Yeah, I took 3.5 with the Panthers, and it's mainly because of everything that we just talked about. I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring, gross game, and I get the other side of a field goal with a home team that does at least get their number one option back from a pass-catching standpoint. It is at least, I know it's a very small sample size, but the first NFL game is out of the way for Bryce Young at this point, right? I mean, so there any first-game jitters, anything that went on there, that's at least behind him at this point. And no Kamara out there. I think that really does, from a Saints aspect, make this offense a little less dynamic, because you don't have that guy that really is for all of the faults he has, I think, sometimes running the ball. But, man, you hit him with a screen, or you hit him with like some little design run, it's ridiculous whenever he gets the ball in his hands from that standpoint. So I do think it really does add to the team a ton to have him out there. And, of course, he's still suspended for the next 2 weeks. So I just don't know how much success they're going to have against the Panthers. So if I'm getting other side of 3 in a game, like you said, you went under, I think it could be super ugly as well, super under-y type game as well. That's going to be the bet for me pretty much every time.
I love these two running backs for an under. You got Williams and Sanders on either side. They got 18 carries each last week. Neither of them got over 75 yards. Yeah. They are 3 yards in a pile or cloud of dust type running backs. That's great for the under when you're not worried about them breaking away and getting these longer runs. So I think that really helps out the under. I think the game plan from Carolina is just going to be so vanilla. They don't trust Bryce Young to throw the football down the field. You saw a lot of passes to the tight ends in that game, a lot of passes to the running back. They didn't go after the wide receivers. Your leading receiver in that game was Hurst, 5 for 41 yards and a short touchdown pass. I just don't see them pushing the ball enough to push this over the total.
You're going to have a hell of a sweat here in this one. Tua had to scramble. And Tua's got 4 rushing yards.
Tua, no.
Yeah, Tua had to scramble. So Tua's got 4 rushing yards, in this one already. So you got a whole game to sweat him not being able to get 2 more yards. So
I'm glad,
that's why it's fun, right?
I'm glad you're enjoying this.
This is fun. That sports betting's fun. It's going to be fun. It's so great. Circling back here, from a prop standpoint, if we do look from Monday night, I think one of the things you can look at here, if we believe that the path to success for maybe even both of these teams is for this game to be ugly and gross and all that, like, I'm looking towards unders, and specifically, even on Bryce Young, I mean, even at 187, right, guys, like a passing prop for him, if they have any success at all running the ball, they're just going to run, and they're just going to run and run and run because, like I said, they're not going to just have him go out there and light this game on fire. I think that the Panthers actually believe that they're good enough to win this division. I mean, the moves that they made in the offseason kind of tell you that they think they're good enough to win this division. You don't bring in a bunch of old guys if you're building for the future, right? Like, that's to win now. And I think they can win now. And so by any means necessary, and if that means Bryce Young only has, I mean, last week we saw Ritter only have 18 pass attempts. Would it shock you at all if Bryce Young only has 18 pass attempts in this game?
No, it wouldn't. I mean, last week, Bryce Young had 38 pass attempts, 146 yards. So even if he throws it 40 times, I don't know if he gets to that 170 number. And that was with the game script where they're down 14 points late, and he's chucking it all over the place. He got most of his yards in trash minutes, basically, down 2 touchdowns. So I don't like Bryce Young right now. I don't mind going the under on that passing total at all.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.